Robbie, good afternoon, my friend. How are we?
Good afternoon, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Very good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, good.
Wonderful. Well, just want to start by saying thank you. I know everything that you've got kind of going on right now, life is really, really busy for you. So, yeah, for you to jump on and pencil in 30 minutes to talk about your experience means a lot, man. So, yeah, just want to let you know in terms of today, all we want to do really is kind of talk about your experience of working with me over the last kind of 6 months and talk about your journey from yeah, before you started working with us, when you were working with us, and now that you have finished working with us. And I just want to do this in the hope it's going to help somebody that watches it. But before we dive on in, why don't you just start by letting everyone know who you are and who it is you help?
Yeah, yeah, first of all, thanks, mate. Thanks for the introduction.
No worries.
I think I'm a performance coach, so I'm helping businessmen with a bit of a unique background. So the way that I help people now is using my experience in elite sport over the past 8 years and the work I've done within there, particularly within professional football.
Hmm.
I saw a real kind of shift between the work I was doing in football and then I was speaking to other people and thinking, they don't, we don't look after ourselves the same way that we should do. And we should treat ourselves like elite athletes. And that's not just from a physical perspective, but, there's massive work to be done where we don't step out from we become that same way that a footballer becomes a footballer and that is all they are and they're not a person no more. We can
Mm.
get trapped with the same thing within business. We could
Yeah.
become a businessman first and a person second, which is wrong. So
Hmm.
it's just about, maintaining that. It's really focused on my background in well-being. And then we'll just implement strategies to improve your physical performance, improve your mental resilience, but then also find that clarity and discover your purpose, what it truly is that you're put on this earth for. And then we start to build a platform and a progression plan from there to understand, how do we actually live this and why are we doing this? It might be your family, it might be your friends, it might be hobbies. There's, wide range of things that we can do that sometimes we get lost from when
Hmm.
we are just business, business, business. And
Yeah.
if we look at so many numbers within business in terms of how much money we're making, how much profit we're making, how can we do this in the next quarter, but we never step back and actually put that same effort and same work into our health, which is important. And I
Absolutely.
feel as men, sometimes maybe there is an element of self-sabotage, I suppose, and having to hit rock bottom to do something about a
Mm.
situation. And I'm keen on obviously change that narrative because I feel there's a real discourse between mental health and mental ill health, and I think a lot of us focus on the mental ill health bracket and what that looks like, and there's actually a big place there to embrace positivity. Because if you look at the definition of mental health, you look at the definition of well-being, they're all centered around positivity, just the same way that any other form of health is. If I was to ask you about your physical health, you wouldn't say to me necessarily, you wouldn't list all the bad things that are going wrong with you at the moment. You'd probably
Mm.
say, you know what, Robbie, I'm in the gym, I'm doing well. I know you are. That's why I dropped that one in. I'm in the gym, I'm doing well, I'm hitting UPBs. Like you'd look at it from a much more positive mindset. But if I meant to say, oh, Sean, how's your mental health? Like so often we initially just go through, the negatives and we look at that and it's a lot to do with kind of how it's portrayed in the media and there's a stigma attached to it. And, my program's about breaking that down and understanding what elite performance looks like. And obviously a big part of that is reaching that gold standard of well-being and flourishing. So yeah, that's, quick overview about me and what I do, mate.
No, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And I can see how passionate you are just watching you kind of light up, which is exciting. Because I mean, what I want to do now is kind of start talking about when we first started speaking on Instagram before you'd even kind of signed up. Um, and it's nice to see the transition as to where you were and where you are now. It really is. But let's kind of cast your mind back to those kind of conversations that we had on Instagram. What was your kind of biggest challenge or frustration that you were facing before you decided to kind of start working with myself?
I was brand new, mate. So obviously I'd worked in that same background for a long time, and there's challenges with that background. And obviously, just before I reached out to you, I knew I was getting married in the summer, and that once the next stages of family life come with that, something would have to change to allow me a bit more flexibility, a bit more freedom to practice what I preach to the people I was working with at that time, but also to live that myself. So a big thing for me was that obviously the unknown of of social media. I wasn't present or active on social media personally. I think when I remember looking back when we was talking, I think my previous post to that was like a year previous when we went away, me and my wife went away for my uncle's wedding or something. So like I just wasn't active on social media. It was something completely new to me and something that I was a bit hesitant on. And then I think you like everyone naturally has that self-doubt at the initial stage of doing something, don't you? You know, what if it doesn't work? What if this doesn't happen? You get caught in that negative loop all the time. And I think that's probably where I was. And yeah, like I said to you when we initially kind of we met and kind of spoke at the first instance was I just kind of connected with you as a person.
Hmm.
Just come across differently to a lot of the other coaches on social media, and that just resonated with me because I'm probably a similar person to you in terms of that family orientation, and my goals are all tailored around that rather than certain other things. I don't have the kind of ambitions of emigration or anything like that. I just want to you know, provide a comfortable life for my family and be present. So I think that's probably what struck was the difference in kind of and how authentic you are with your content, and you could get a good feel of who you are as a person, really.
Yeah. Thanks, man. No, I remember our back and forths. I remember leaving you voice notes when I was in the gym. I remember where I was in the gym when I was speaking to you, and you were communicating with me saying, are you ready to do this? You just need to know a little bit more about what it all looks like. And we had a call, etc. And obviously the rest is history. But when you did, decide to, invest in yourself and join the community in the program, what were your kind of initial thoughts or feelings within the first few weeks?
Yeah, I think you get a lot of quick changes, mate. I think obviously one aspect of that is I think once you invest in yourself, you're providing yourself with a bit of confidence. I feel like you're thinking, I've taken the step forward. I've broke those initial limiting beliefs that we all have. Kind of that's the first stage of self-sabotage over with because I've actually taken the leap of faith here and invested in myself. And then I think secondly, like you get quite a lot of quick returns and quick gains through the program. So that with the first section of your program, like a lot of those limiting beliefs are broken down.
Hmm.
So you almost feel invincible before you've like even touched your coaching business or your program. Like I've not even scratched the surface on who I am as a coach, where I want to be. There's so much things that I didn't know, but at the same time, I was so confident that it was going to be a success. And that was like within the first week or two. I remember we spoke quite early on, and I know like when you said, "Oh, how much time can you commit to this?" and I was like, "Yeah, no, it's fine, don't worry about it." And I remember literally working like maybe 20 odd hours that first weekend between the Saturday and Sunday just to get through that first part of the module, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm done." And you was like, "All right." So, and I think that that was partly as well because one, I'm that kind of person. I'm driven. If I set my mind to something, I'll do it. But at the same time, like the course is engaging, it's enjoyable, and you feel that you're starting to break those barriers down. So you
Hmm.
want to kind of I was keen to think, right, get rid of these limiting beliefs as fast as possible. Don't let them sit with you. Don't kind of let them settle into something that's going to become more difficult to remove in the future. And at the same time, I was like, right, you need to do this first part to grow your business, or in my case, start your business. Like you are literally at ground zero here, Robbie. You've got, no business, no real idea. You've got kind of a dream without a platform of actually putting that into fruition. So I think yeah, the first bit, mate, was big for me and just kind of thinking, I don't know, I settled in quite quickly and just
Yeah.
the onboarding process, the access to the community, and the initial bit of work we did put me at ease and kind of it was a nice introduction into the world of coaching, I suppose.
Yeah. And I remember when you did that, and I think I commented and said something, if you continue in this kind of vein of execution, like you'll crush it. And funny enough, I just did a video testimonial earlier with Jake Alfred, who again is a fitness coach. And I said the same thing to him, but the people who get the best results in any program, not just mine, are the people that execute the quickest. Because you know yourself, right? It's like success loves speed. And if I share with you or George or Jake, a particular piece of information or marketing collateral, you are the people that go away and execute it. And you are the people that will get results because you've executed it. A lot of the time, you've heard me say this so many times, running a coaching business is simple, complicated by the human brain. And, we can often go into that over analysis. We can start overthinking things. What about this? What about that? It's like, just get it done. Just get it done and then reiterate. And like you just said, I remember your first join, you were like, yeah, sure, I've done that. I was like, oh, wow. I was pretty impressed. Like, there's usually people will get that initial burst of energy, like, yeah, I've invested, this is amazing, and it'll last for a couple of days, and then it will start to kind of fall away. But for you, it just was like, yeah, I've done this, what's next? Yeah, I've done this, what's next? And that's why we're having a, video testimonial 6 months later, and you've absolutely crushed it in the program, man. So yeah, credit where credit's due.
I
So
appreciate that.
no worries at all. So when you did first kind of sign up with us, obviously, like you just said, you went away and got married. Congratulations. I'm next. But what was the actual goal that you wanted to accomplish? You said you were at ground zero. What was the goal that you were hoping to achieve with us?
I think it was like you said, mate. I wasn't particularly focused on like a huge financial goal. That's not my main driver in doing this. It was that ability to be present with my family and leave the full-time role and
Hmm.
then make this aspect and this performance coaching my full-time gig. And I think that was the main driver for me. Like I said, I know I say this all the time about the financial side of things. Like it's not the be all and end all for me. It's about having a career that's aligned to my values, that's aligned to who I am, what drives me. I'm walking the walk here. I'm practicing what I preach.
Hmm.
Um, these are all aligned to my own personal values. And like I said, we got married in the summer, and I just want to be more present with my family. And this is a great way of doing it, a great way of, if you get this up and running, you get this going to a point where you have the ability to manage your own schedule. And that's not saying that it's not intense, that it's not, you don't go through difficult parts. Like you said, success loves speed. So there's an element there of, get stuff done and do it right and do it quickly and work hard. But at the same time, there might be a moment in which, uh, you know, something happens or that perhaps you couldn't have taken time off for previously that now that, I manage my own schedule. So
Hmm.
um, if something happens, then, I'm there. Or if there's an event that I've missed out on, which I've done countless times for the past 8 years, like I'm there.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's like when people ask me why do I do what I do, I love helping people. I was the king of self-sabotage, as you well know. But the reality is, on a selfish kind of standpoint, I want the freedom to do what I want when I want with whoever I want. And that's what, running your own business can allow you to do. So, I mean, even this year, right, when we did the in-person events, that was something I'd wanted to do for a long time. And we were able to get 30 of our clients, yourself included, all in a room together, which was pretty special. So what I'm curious to know, obviously, you started with us, you didn't have an Instagram, you didn't have an offer, didn't have anything. You won't mind me t saying, like, you were literally at ground zero. Since you started working with us, then, what kind of specific breakthroughs or results have you experienced since working with us? And have you been able to quit your job, like you said?
Yeah, so there was obviously a list a mile long, mate, with the things that I've accomplished from, where I am to where I was. And I'm not saying I'm the finished product by any means, but that's an ongoing process. I don't think you ever reach that level. I'm sure you'll agree with me that, you still strive now to get better and provide a better service and kind of improve the way you do certain things. I think that's just a constant battle. But I think, yeah, I've come a long way, mate. Like you said, I didn't even have an Instagram account when we first started. If
Yeah,
you'd have asked me to run a meta ad, I wouldn't have even known what
I
that was
scratch
or
your
where to
head.
begin. I'd have looked at you thinking, what are you on about? But no,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's where I am, mate. Got my Instagram set up. We've got a nice, healthy number of online clients.
Yes, sir.
We've got some hybrid clients, which is an important aspect for me as well. Um, and yeah, we're doing well, mate. We're doing well. We're in, and I'm enjoying what I do. I'm enjoying helping people, and the people that I'm working with are getting results. So,
Yeah.
that's the big thing for me. But just to break it down, yeah, obviously no Instagram. Now I've got that running. I've run a set number of ads based on kind of the work we've done together inside the program. I've sales script I never had that I've got now that's kind of solid.
Hmm.
Um, Even just the confidence in the way that you speak with certain things. I remember I look back all the time, mate, that my first few videos, and it was another little bit of self-sabotage on my end where I had the horrendous background behind them, and I knew at the time that didn't look great. But it wasn't until we did a content review where you were like, "Look, man, I hate that. Like, I hate that background."
Yeah.
But that's the kind of honesty that I practice myself and I enjoy. Like, I like people to be honest with me. I don't like people beating around the bush. And you offer that. I remember you going through it and being like, "No, I hate that background, mate." And I was like, "Yeah, cool. Like, what do I do different? What do I do instead?" And he was like, "Just film your content." And like little things like that have just, that I didn't appreciate at the time has allowed me to kind of level up massively when I look back from day one to now. And the content is a lot easier to come by now because you've got your four different pillars of your content, and it becomes easy to understand. And I think once you take that deep dive and understand clearly who it is you want to help, why you want to help them, and what support do they need, that kind of messaging comes across a lot easier within your content once you know the structure of what to put out there, but also who you are helping, and get really clear on that. And then yeah, I think like you say, mate, I've got to that point, and I'll drop the clanger there in terms of I've been able to quit my full time job, so it's looking at where we were and started 6 months, 6 months previous when we were talking about this, and that was the onboarding call and the roadmap vision call was very much this is what I want to do full time, and that's my aim. Like we've got there, we've got to that point where we've achieved it. So it's just the beginning, but at the same time, it's been a good 6 months considering the stag do, the wedding, the honeymoon, all
Yeah.
in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Like it's been professionally and personally like probably the best 6 months of my life, aside from other little bits and bats. But yeah, definitely professionally and personally, the biggest 6 months of my life, most challenging, but also the best and most rewarding.
It's amazing to hear, man. I absolutely love that. I'm not being dramatic, like it's just give me chills just hearing that because again, like this is why I do what I do, being able to have you 6 months on from when we first spoke on that first call say, this is what I want to do, want to quit my job, and now we're here and you're like, yeah, I've done it. It's like, fuck yeah. It's just, yeah, really, really delighted for you, man. And you deserve it. I've told you this before, but you're one of the hardest working people I've ever worked with because, that speed, that execution, the way I can be direct. I remember there's one memory that sticks out. You sent me your first sales call over. Do you remember? You sent me your
Yeah.
first sales call, and I remember being in the garden and reviewing it, and I went through it all step by step. And you were like, yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. Next thing you were like, yeah, I've just done another sales call, close the clients, another clients. And then I remember you kind of just were cracking on and cracking on. And then I remember seeing your client results on Instagram, and it was just results, like transformation, transformation. And again, for you to be able to do that in 6 months is phenomenal, man. So yeah, I hope you're proud of yourself there.
No, I
Um,
am, mate, and obviously a lot of support's gone into that from the community, the lessons, everything. So
yeah,
I'd have been stuck exactly where I was 6 months ago prior if I'd not taken that leap. So yeah, big
absolutely.
thanks to you as well for that, mate.
Thanks, man. So obviously we spoke about the professional side. You've been able to generate clients. Literally, you ended the self-sabotage, created the offer, took it to market, learned how to sell it, delivered it, now getting results, and it's just a rinse and repeat process at the moment. But how has the program kind of impacted you outside of the business?
I think it, I think you can take a lot away from it, mate. I think when we talk about self-sabotage, you might look at it specifically for your coaching business at a time, but I think when you start to delve in and actually understand the process and how things work, how we tick, why do we feel the way we feel, why do we react to the way we react certain times, I think once you conquer one aspect of your life, so when I conquered the business side and having that initial doubt of, is this for me? Can I make it work? Am I going to fall flat on my face? But I think once you've got to instill confidence in yourself, you've got to instill belief in yourself, but that can only ever come by doing something about it. You can never have confidence in something. You'll always have that anxiousness, that self-sabotaging behaviors if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone and
Mhm.
understand that the first few times you do something, like my content, the first few times you do something, it's probably going to be shit because you've
Mhm.
never done it before.
Absolutely.
But the more you do things, like the more comfortable you become, the more confidence you instill in yourself, the more belief you have in yourself, and that bleeds into every other aspect of your life. So it's not just, it's not just the coaching business that I've kind of alleviated them self-sabotaging behaviors. That it bleeds into your outside life as well. It might be me in the gym. It might be me with certain limiting behaviors with family or friends, or just
Hmm.
general day-to-day conversations that I do now handle differently because I just look at things a little bit you know, more
Hmm.
positively and differently to probably what I did before I started.
Yeah.
I think, you can get comfortable sometimes within particular roles or a particular industry, and can become hard for you to move from that, especially, in my instance with as a like a new online coach,
Hmm.
you can become, you know, you always wait for that right time. It's probably never going to arise in terms of like there's not going to be a perfect situation where you've got the money you need in the bank to have 6 months to go at it, or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's work commitments, whatever it might be, and you can spend, I could spend the next year, 2 years of my life self-sabotaging that same way of thinking, like, this is something I'd like to do. Like, I've done my qualifications, I've done my courses, I feel
Mhm.
ready to do it, but what if it don't work?
Yeah.
And that, for me, the biggest thing now, like, I'm a positive person anyway. That's why I took the leap. Like, I have a lot of faith in myself and my offer and kind of how I help people. I know that, I can help people and I have helped people and I'll continue to do so. But I
Mhm.
think the big thing is, mate, it bleeds into other aspects of your life as well, because once you start to see results, you'll start to see results elsewhere as well. It's just, it's a given, really.
Yeah.
If you can, like I say, I went from not having a clue about it to knowing a lot more. And I think even just like the little bits of self-sabotage, like you say, even just general day-to-day habits you can alleviate that might not have anything to do directly with your coaching business, but I can guarantee that they'll help you with your coaching business down the line if you start to see things differently. Like, it's not just, it might be something completely out of the realms and like within your personal life, say that you now handle differently. That bleeds into your coaching, because if you can settle the self-sabotaging tendencies as a whole, you've got, you know, no excuse not to go all in within your business and kind of like give it a good crack
Mhm.
and be the best possible version of yourself at that moment in time, to make sure that one, the product is the best possible version of what you can offer at that time.
Mhm.
Two, you're providing the best possible service when you do get clients. And three, like, you're providing the best possible service to yourself, like you're doing yourself justice,
Yeah.
which is within your business and personally. And if you continue with those self-sabotaging patterns, and obviously that's exactly why I came to you in the first instance, because I had thought about it for a long time and been like, maybe now's not the right time. What if it doesn't work? But now, like, I look at life a lot differently than what I probably did 6 months ago. And like I say, I am a positive person naturally anyway, but we all have them self doubts, and
Absolutely, man.
you've got to be more conscious about them. And I think working with you, like, you are the self sabotage coach. So if if I don't walk away from this in 6 months' time, having alleviated a lot of them, then I've let myself down, and I've not got the most from the course. So no, I think that's a big thing for me, mate. Like, it's not just it's obviously a business focused course, but you
Mhm.
you will definitely still kind of grow as a person outside of it as well.
Yeah. I love hearing that, man. And that's always the goal, like getting the clients. It's a very simple process. You know, now you've been in the program, you've done it, you've come out the other end, and you can see, oh, it's pretty simple, like what I teach the business side. My bread and butter is the kind of the self-sabotage, understanding, like you just said, why you're kind of getting in your way, what it is you need to do differently, what thought patterns are, holding you back, what thought patterns do you need to instill to help you, what ones you need to remove that are harming you. And I love that kind of stuff. I have had someone join the program 5 weeks ago. They worked through the whole self-sabotage and they said, Sean, if I learn nothing else other than what I've learned so far, it'll be worth the investment. And that for me just tells me all I need to hear. So yeah, I'm very thankful of the compliment there. Well, one thing I want to know is when it does come to the business side, was there a particular moment in the program where everything just kind of clicked for you and you were like, I can see how this all works now?
Um, yes and no, mate. I would say there is obviously, once you've kind of worked through the content, you are like, right, this is what a coaching business looks like. But I think at the same time, it's like a constant kind of process of development, isn't it? So the way that the course is set out, like, it's not just, I don't know, I think there's a number of like, yeah, shit, that's the
Mm.
moments throughout the course. So throughout
Mm.
each phase, I think there's times where you kind of go through your whole discovery process and you think, that's the thing, that's me, that's, that's who I'm here to help. That's what, this is who I'm destined to be and who I'm destined to help. Through that discovery phase, that's like a big moment where you're like, yep, bang, epiphany moment. And then you move on to the marketing side of things, and then you understand again, yeah, okay, that's, this is a big moment. I remember with the content and the adverts and things like that was a complete minefield to me. But
Yeah.
then it was like we run a couple of adverts, had a bit of success from them, and then it's like, right, okay, that's what works, that's what doesn't work. And then I think as well, mate, it's not just the course, it's the additional resources like within the community too. And it's something that I've kind of brought into my own coaching, where you can have a course that, is as solid as you want it to be, but there's always going to be things to add, things to improve, and that community aspect's massive. So I think yeah, like even just things like the ads tracker and little kind of worksheets that get included as you work through and kind of beyond are important because it's things you don't necessarily think about. Like,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? You can know how to run an advert, you can know how to see if it's what's working, what's not, but without kind of consciously tracking that, do you really know what's working? Do you really know what's working? So within that market phase again, and then I think with the selling exactly the same. You have a moment. The biggest thing for me was I'm not a salesperson. I never have been, and like I've been on other sales calls in the past where I felt like awkward and kind of pinned into a corner and like almost where it felt like, no, you are going to work with me. And
Mhm.
I'd be like, nah, I'm not, mate. And yeah, like I've had that experience myself. So that was a big apprehension of mine. I didn't want to come across like that. But again, that's another kind of, yeah, okay, that's how it works moment where you can kind of sell with ease and not sleaze. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And I think, yeah, so I wouldn't say there's like one particular moment where it's like, bang, that's the moment that I'd pinpoint as, yeah, here
Yeah.
I am. But I think there's just numerous moments throughout where you just start to compound that where it's like, right, okay, this is it. I understand completely who it is I want to help. I understand, what I want to do. Then you compound that with, yeah, now I understand exactly how I'm going to do that. I know the layout of my program. I've got kind of Sean's program to work from in terms of a structure. What software does he use? How
Mhm.
does he do things? How does he run his adverts? Then you start to market it. Same thing again. You compound from,
Mhm.
nothing to knowing who you want to help, to having a program, to being able to market that, create your content, being able to sell that. So yeah, there's not one key moment for me, mate, where I was like, yeah, this is the moment, but within every section there is okay, yeah, that's the moment, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's a better answer than I could have asked for. So there were several, yeah, insights kind
Yeah,
of
it's not one big
incorporated.
thing, mate. I think it's a journey. It is
Mhm.
definitely a journey where it's just a constant discovery process where you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about the business. And obviously I know I'm coming from kind of that newbie background, but I know speaking to people within the community as well that, it doesn't matter whether you're brand new like me or you've been in the coaching space 10 years, like there's value in that course and there's things that you won't know or things that you are doing that maybe they did work a few years ago or maybe, when you first started coaching, maybe they did work, but they perhaps don't work now. So it's all relevant. It's all kept up to date. And
Yeah.
it's relevant with the times here and now, what works right in this moment in time. And I
Mm.
think it's good because if there's never been a moment where I'd felt like, oh, this doesn't work anymore, but there's always new things within obviously the coaching lessons and the class, the group work and the community where we're like, right, okay, we're going to try this now. We're going to try that. And it's always kind of been like, you'll take the hit on it, you'll test it.
Yeah.
If it works, and it's brilliant. If it works, brilliant, kind of we'll implement it and kind of shape that into what it looks like for our business. So yeah, I think there's I could talk all day, mate, about the different moments in time where I was like, yeah, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That's a good point. I think probably just to touch on that as well. I don't know if this would be a question for you, but like I would just say to utilize you as much as you can. Like especially if you're kind of in the position I was in where you're completely new to it. I used to bombard you maybe 50 times a day with like simple questions that might seem stupid to some people, but for me at the time it was like, right, okay, what's this? And I think you always kind of get a detail answered back, right? And for me that was like enough where I was like, okay, Sean's told me once now, like this is what I need to do, so I just got to do it. I'm not the like I think again it comes back to probably the relationship we form, mate, where I'm open to that brutal honesty sometimes,
Yeah.
and I'm happy for you to say something to me like, no, that's completely wrong. That's that shit. It's not good enough. Like,
Mhm.
this is what you need to do. It's like, right, okay, perfect. The sales call was the exact, the perfect
Mhm.
thing, mate. I remember you saying to me like, where are you looking when you're talking? When you're running this
Yeah.
sales call, where are you looking? Because I wasn't looking into the camera. I was
Mhm.
looking to the left or the right. I can't remember which way it was, but you was just like little details that right, okay, simple. Next time, this is what you need to do. Right, okay. I
Yeah.
think it's just to get the most out of the program. You've obviously got you've got the course to go through, which is value upon value, and then you've got your community to kind of lean on, rely on, support each other, keep you accountable. But then
Mhm.
at the same time, like yeah, utilize the people in there as well, especially you, because it's like for me, I was like, right, okay, what do I do in this situation, Sean? If
Yeah.
it could be as simple as like a prospect, a particular message from a prospect where you're like, I'm like, I'd probably reply to it this way, and you're like, no, this is what you need to say, or this is how you need to say it. And I
Mhm.
think once you like, I know in the initial probably 3 4 months I was like peppering you, but then I got to a point where I learned a lot. So I was like, I don't need to rely. I don't need Sean to not hold my hand, but like I need less of Sean now, in
Hmm.
because I've got so much value in the initial phase, which then meant once then I do kind of come to you with questions and um, it's just kind of again compounding that knowledge, compounding the learnings really, mate. So I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think personally, if you look at the people that we stand out as doing really well within the program, I think they probably all say the same thing in the sense of like to get maximum value, don't sit being stuck on something. Like, if there's a part of the course that's new to you that you want more detail on, or you like you say, once you implement things, there's something that you're not quite sure on, or
Hmm.
people coming in, the prospects coming in, but you're not sure what to reply to them, how to say this, how to do that. It's like just utilize. Don't sit on things like you don't know we need help unless we say to you we need help.
Absolutely.
So that would be the big thing for me. Like probably breaking down that self-sabotaging pattern, mate, of not wanting to bother people. Like
Yeah.
if you jump into a program, just bother Sean as much as you want, and you'll get your
Absolutely.
response. And once you've learned one thing, like for me, I like to think I do something and make a mistake, but I'd be like, right, okay, that's a mistake, and then I wouldn't do it again. But
Hmm.
I wouldn't know it was a mistake, and I'd probably keep doing it if I didn't have that support of like, what, just drop Sean a quick voice note here, or a quick message, or a quick screenshot of what's going on.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah, no, he's right. That's how you do it, and then move on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely utilize that aspect as well, mate.
No, cheers, mates. And you're absolutely right in terms of like leaning on me. I call it kind of outsourcing thinking. A lot of the time, people will just think, 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 and then, a day will pass, a few days will pass, and you could have kind of executed in those few days. So I say to people all the time, just to echo what you say, like, lean on me, utilize me, like outsource your thinking instead of being stuck with how do I respond to this prospect? How do I do this? How do I just say, hey, Sean, you would have solved this problem before. What do I do? And I'm like, okay, do this. And it's a very common pattern, what you've just mentioned there. Like the first 2 or 3 months, people rely on me a lot more. They're not dependent on me, but they rely on me a lot more
Yeah,
because, like you just said, like the gap that they have to learn is a lot. That there's a huge kind of um, there's a huge part of the puzzle missing from where they are right now to where they want to be. And that's always the same. George, Cully, I could keep naming all these people, all the people that kind of start the program and they're like, okay, I'm just going to pepper Sean every day, for the next couple of months. And then it just slowly kind of start to quiet down. So much so that I'd message you. And I'd be like, hey man,
yeah.
I've not heard from you for a few weeks. How's it going? You'd be like, yeah,
I think
it's
that's
good.
the
Signed a
thing, mate.
client, had a renewal, got this person. I'm like, awesome. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. You need less and less kind of support the more, the longer that I work with the
Yeah.
client.
I
So
think that's what it is, mate. I think you go from like that general support of like needing everything, like every question that gets
yeah,
thrown at you, like, right, I need this support. But then as you get through the program, it's just kind of like you learn more and more, you compound that. So then it's then more, you go from like this bigger overview of like, how does this work? How does that work? To meeting you more in a sense of just like fine tuning certain
yeah,
things where you can actually
nuanced kind of
dive into.
questions.
Yeah, so you actually dive into the finer details of a coaching business. Like I remember previously saying to you, like I remember asking all sorts of questions. Like I would always like, how do I reply to this? How do I reply to that? Obviously, I've not asked you that in a long time now because I feel like I've got that knowledge. But then I remember recently reaching out and saying like, how do you work with client renewals? Like, how
Yeah.
does that work? And just so then you go from like these general overview, like quite zoomed out questions to
Mhm.
as the program goes on, like the lens starts to just
Yeah.
focus more and more in on it. And like I say, I think it's more things like that. Like I was getting to that point where I was like, right, Sean, like I've had my clients, I've had my success, I've got my transformations there. Like, what do you do to retain them? What does that look
Yeah.
like? What do you
Exactly.
offer? What's the structure? And I think it's just that, mate. You're always there to lean on. And obviously, the idea is that you need like, or if you use it correctly, or the way that I feel I've done, like I would need to lean on you less and less. But at the same time, like it doesn't mean that it's like, oh, just use Sean for 3 months and then
Mhm.
you don't speak to you or you don't get this. Like you say, you always reach out and be like, what's going on, mate? I've not heard from you in a while. Everything good? The same respect, and then it's still, you're still there with the finer questions, and it helps to. I think every stage of your business, mate, really, isn't it? It's like I say in that early interim, like just absolutely peppered the life out of you every day of my life. Every day of your life, I was peppering you, and I think it just comes down to the finer, more in-depth details, then where it's like, right, okay, would you deal with this situation, or where do you move forward from this point? So yeah, it's not like you, Sean, and then like you're
Yeah.
left in the lurch or anything. Like you're still
Yeah.
obviously you're still there, still hear from you in plenty of time, like plenty of times. And when if you ever are stuck, like just drops you a message.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, mate, it's like just use that as much as you can.
100%, man. So on top of that, on top of kind of leaning on me as much as possible, as you well know, I mean, you came from Instagram, right? So
Yeah,
we speak with hundreds of people every single day in terms of wanting to get help, whether it's starting their business, growing their business, or scaling their coaching business. So now that you've been through the program, you've generated the results and you've seen, the kind of results that people in the program get. What sort of advice would you give anybody who's perhaps on the fence about joining ECA?
I'd say just to do it, mate. I think like if they spent enough time kind of around your content and kind of working out and getting that gist of who you are as a person, if you align to what Sean offers, then just do it because you're not going to look back, you're not going to regret it. I think like I remember when we were speaking before, it's like you said, even just with the first part of the module, like your return on investment's there, and that's not even talking about business. Like, you could just get through that first stage and be a better person. Like, that's enough of a return on that investment without even thinking about what you can do from a business perspective. So,
Yeah.
I would say, mate, like, obviously I've done it, I've walked the walk. Like, it's a no-brainer for me to kind of jump in. I think you get that click from people sometimes. You've never come across as like a salesperson as pushy. Like when we had our initial kind of onboarding and discussions around that and the discovery call, it was all very much if I can help you, great. If I can't, I'll send you in the right direction. But that felt genuine. So I
Mm,
think for me, if you want to work with someone who is genuine, who's got a good community, who's got support around him as well to kind of, additionally that you can continue to work with throughout the program, then yeah, it's a no-brainer really.
thanks, man. Means a lot. Really does. So, last question, man. If people want to get in touch with you, maybe they're wanting to kind of get in great shape, take care of themselves, and yeah, how can they get in touch with you? Instagram, where can they find you, man?
Yeah, Instagram at Robbie Bloodworth Coaching. Um, so yeah, that'd be great, mate. I think if you are truly ready, I think they're probably similar to you, mate, where you are ready to cut the excuses, you know, um, get rid of the background noise, get rid of the outside noise, and kind of actually make a difference in your life and kind of go from that state of just feeling like you're faking it every day, feeling like you're just coasting through life, and every day is kind of merging into one.
Hmm.
If you're truly ready to understand that, like, we get one life, we want to live it the way we want to live it, we want to live it aligned to our values, live the way that, we're supposed to do, that, really energizes us, then
Hmm.
yeah, get in touch. I think,
Amazing.
yeah, I think from, again, just touching on that, mate, we'll go probably back into your program. I think that's the kind of holistic nature of my programs stem from that. I had the idea of how do I combine this with this, but I think that's given me that, entire. I'd like to think I'm the one-stop shop for someone who's completely ready to transform their life. We work on sleep, we work on nutrition, we get you into the gym or some form of physical activity that's going to improve mood, improve body composition. We'll
Hmm.
work through the same, similar to the self-sabotage, we work through your mental resilience model. We'll go through the fourth state mindset system and how that works and really
Amazing.
transform the way we view the world. And then finally, yeah, we go through, we'll understand what is your vision, what is your purpose, what are your values, and what do you do to live to them. So if you are kind of truly ready to reach that gold standard of well-being, then yeah, please do get in touch.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for your time, Robbie. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you, mate.
Cheers.